Hi, I'm Victor Lambs, and you're listening to The Secrets of Stargate, where we talk about hidden meanings and deeper layers found in the Stargate movies, TV series, and more. And joining me today are Lisa Jones. Hi, Lisa.
Hey, Victor.
And Jeff Haecker. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Victor.
And today we are discussing the 14th episode of Season 1 of Stargate SG1, Full Alert. In this episode, Brigadier General Jack O'Neill returns home to find his door ajar and former Vice President Robert Kinsey inside, proposing an alliance against the Trust. Meanwhile, at Stargate Command, Lieutenant Colonel Samantha Carter devises a plan where Kinsey could infiltrate the Trust under surveillance, but the operation goes awry when both video and audio feeds are lost, and SG1 loses Kinsey. Suspecting the Trust's use of the cloaked Alkesh ship, the team splits up. Teal'c heads the Prometheus, Carter works on detecting the ship, and Daniel Jackson travels to Russia to liaise with military officials. In Moscow, Jackson is arrested under suspicion of the assassination plot against General Myroslav Kiselev, following an attempt by Kinsey, who is revealed to be a Goa'uld. The situation escalates as it's believed that the U.S. government might be compromised by Goa'uld, pushing Russia and China towards nuclear readiness, aiming to prevent the Goa'uld from seizing Earth's resources. Jackson, beaming... Sorry, this was written by AI, and it's not... I think it's just the episode itself, but... yeah, okay, so let's try this here. Jackson, beaming to the Prometheus with Kinsey, learns that the Goa'uld within Kinsey is part of the larger scheme for the system. This episode. Jackson, beaming to the Prometheus with Kinsey, learns that the Goa'uld within Kinsey is part of the larger scheme by the system lords to destroy humanity and claim the ancient weapon at the Antarctic outpost for themselves. Carter deduces that Kiselev is also a Goa'uld, evidenced by his uncharacteristic lack of glasses. Sorry. Grok wrote this one, and it's Carter deduces that Kiselev is also Goa'uld, evidenced by his uncharacteristic lack of glasses. Amidst an attack by the Trust's Alkesh on the Prometheus, Kinsey escapes, kills another Goa'uld, and the Alkesh is subsequently destroyed by the Prometheus. The crisis concludes with the SGC informing the Russian president of the Goa'uld infiltration, leading to the neutralization of Kiselev, averting nuclear war and ensuring Earth's safety from immediate Goa'uld takeover. What did you think of this episode, Lisa?
Oh gosh, I said earlier to go. I really wish I'd been here last week and missed this week instead. I mean, I love Ronnie Cox, great actor, great. When he's on Stargate, but I just don't have a lot to say about this. So it's a short podcast for me. There's just so much talking and rehashing, and this feels like a big miss in the middle of the second half of season 8, which is actually a really good second half of season. I don't know, I just kind of nodded off. I don't know. Daniel goes to Russia, Carter's solving all the problems, Jack's sitting at his desk with nothing to do, and Teal'c is fighting all the fights. I don't know. It did have some moments that were really good, but otherwise,
Yeah. What did you What did you think of this episode, Jeff?
Yeah, this one was okay. I mean, I think I've liked most of the ones that I've been on, but yeah, I forgot about this one. I knew there was one more with Kinsey and the Trust, but I couldn't remember if it was this season or next. And yeah, it was. I mean, seeing Kinsey is always fun. He's the guy you love to hate, and Ronnie Cox, like you said, plays it so well. But yeah, overall, it was just a lot of. And I was going to ask Victor, you may have known, was this like a money saving episode because they?
Oh, was it? We'll get into that. Yeah, they cover a lot of that on the commentary.
Yeah, because they have limited sets. They don't really going too many locations. They don't use the gate at all. You don't. I really noticed it when the ships are fighting, and I'm pretty sure you don't see the exteriors of the ships. You just see the shots of the characters reacting to what's happening. So yeah, it was okay. I mean, it's not one I watched it because it's in the sequence of the show, and it does wrap up. I think it wraps up the Trust completely. I can't remember if the Trust is ever mentioned again, but it's the last we see of Kinsey. And I'd forgotten that I thought he died in this, but I guess he's still out there somewhere. So maybe that's the Stargate reboot. I keep saying that. It's just
Ronnie Cox is still alive, still on Star Trek Prodigy. So
yeah,
maybe then.
Yeah.
But it was okay. But like you said, there's
yeah, and I respect this episode for what it is. So at this point in season 8, they're trying to wrap up like, oh, we haven't done one on Mayborn. Let's wrap up the Mayborn character, and they do a really good job with that. And then I think they were trying to say, well, let's just wrap up the Kinsey character in the Trust. And, for what they had to work with, Malazzi and Mully, I think, do a really good job creating kind of this global, war games / espionage plot. But they're very limited with their resources here. And on the commentary, I mean, it even got to the point where I think like Amanda Tapping had an appointment she really needed to get to, but she was in a scene, the one where she's like faxing the documents to the Russian president. And she was like, after I fax this, can I just like take off, because I really need to go. And they're like, yeah, that's okay. So you even in the scene, you see her just fax the documents, and then she just like runs out of the frame because she had to like leave and go to like an appointment or something. It's just like I mean, I'm glad that we got this. It kind of resolves the Kinsey character, but we'll go into some of the money saving things here. Yeah, and again, it just like, okay, now I guess we're in space. Now we're in Russia. And now, why are these people doing this? Oh, this Kiselev character sounds like a major character. We never see him. And then it's, well, except this picture he's wearing glasses. This picture he's not wearing glasses.
Yeah.
Ipso facto, cogito ergo sum. He's
I'm
a cool.
pretty sure at this time I was wearing contacts and I was in high school. So
yeah.
And like actually, no one has ever taken their glasses off or worn contacts or had laser whatever. Yeah.
So they had to add in the line where Gary Chalk's, Colonel Chekhov says, "Oh, he has glaucoma. There's no way he could see," because people are like, you have heard of LASIK, right? So
yeah.
But yeah, so it's, I like you, Lisa. I do not remember this episode at all. But I mean, I appreciate it, I guess, for what it is. I didn't hate it.
No, I didn't hate it. I just kind of nodded off a little bit with all of the DEF CON this and that and like back and forth. And I hate to blame money. I don't know if it was money or not. It just felt very dry. Like, what was really at stake?
They could have like started a nuclear war. I did
really?
Appreciate I did appreciate the line where the Russian generals are concerned about NATO expansion.
Yes.
So I was like, oh, that's very relevant. But
it just didn't feel like something was really at stake. You know what I mean? Like maybe if we could have, I don't want to say bombed an alien planet, because bad things happen to alien planets, but bad things don't usually happen to Earth in at least in this show.
Well, and I'm also like, what ballistic missile could the Russians launch that the Prometheus couldn't shoot down?
Yeah.
But so cost saving measures here. So they were able to get Ronnie Cox, which is excellent. Mm-hmm. They were able to get him up there. We were able to see Jack's house again, which is very cool. We have kind of it's always cool to see Jack's house because they've kept the same physical house as Jack's house basically throughout the entire run. And I guess there's actually people who live in that house. So when they need to film in there, they have to call ahead and say, "Hey, we're going to need your house for a couple of days. Can you like leave for a couple of days so we can film in your house?"
And is it their furniture? Do we know? Because it's stayed the same.
Most of it's their furniture, but the big comfy chair that Ronnie Cox kind of collapses in for most of the scene, that was actually moved in from the writer's room at SG1 because, they couldn't afford like more furniture. So they're like, well, this is a cool chair. We'll just move this from our writer's room into and but it's a very good scene, I think.
Yeah. That was probably the best scene, the two of them acting off each other.
Yeah, and they did acknowledge the commentaries with director Andy Makita and co-writer Paul Mully, and they did acknowledge there's a lot of like talking in this episode, pages and pages of dialogue. And this was actually filmed in the afternoon, that original scene. And the morning, there's an elementary school near the house, and they had dressed the music classroom of the elementary school to be the Russian jail cell. And so the scenes with Ronnie Cox in the Russian jail cell, they filmed that in the morning at the elementary school and then moved to the house to film in the afternoon. It's a episodic TV show. They have to, make ends meet and stuff. And it's, I certainly couldn't tell that the Russian jail cell was a, music classroom.
No,
that's just funny.
Yeah. They did that. Other things you'll notice that when so Kinsey is told that he's going to meet the Trust, and there's a cool road in the middle of the country where on the way to the airport where he's approached by the Trust and blindfolded and stuff. And that's, of course, the same road that we later see in Russia, because they were able to close the roads and have it to themselves and stuff and film on it. And then, of course, the house where Kinsey meets the Trust, it's this mansion type thing. That's actually like a historical mansion near Vancouver. And that's also like all of the Russian military headquarters scenes were filmed in that same place. So,
and have we seen that house before? I want to think that we've seen it, but I didn't take the time to look it up. But it just seemed very familiar when they pulled up to it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to check on that, but yeah. So they were able to, with just a few sets, and of course the Prometheus set, which they also have built. But it got to the point where, where the Alkesh is cloaked and is zooming in on the Prometheus, and you saw the back of the Prometheus, and it's getting larger as they fly up to it. Well, that was actually just a shot that they had used earlier of the Prometheus flying away, but they reversed it so it looked like you were closing in on it. So I thought that was pretty ingenious. Most productions now they just re-render the footage, but not season 8 of SG1.
But see, stuff like that as a cost saving measure doesn't bother me because it's not something I would notice.
Yeah,
it's cool when you hear about it, but you don't notice it. It fills the scene and whatever. I guess my issues were more plot driven.
Yeah, and I think they do a good job explaining why the Goa'uld want to start a nuclear war on Earth. It's these are still the system lords, whichever ones are left of them, and we don't get their names, which is kind of it's kind of anticlimactic where you're like, oh, which system lords are left, but they're just like Goa'uld 1, Goa'uld 2.
It's like, you can't know my name. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's funny because they want to cause the nuclear war to get the ancient weapon in Antarctica. But if you nuke the whole world, if the two superpowers and China as well, so 3 superpowers are all, launching nukes at each other, or 2 launching nukes at one, the world's going to be contaminated. And I mean, Antarctica will probably melt pretty quickly, and you lose, or at least will be so irradiated and I don't know that the weapon would be, you could get to it. And then they couldn't even, I know they don't know needs the ancient gene, but they couldn't use it anyway. So I think a stronger plot might have been if they said they want to take Earth off the board as a threat rather than, but I mean, Goa'uld have to be mustache twirling over the top, and they always want the weapon or big honking space gun, as Jack would say. So they to get that. So
I will say, as you said, the mustache twirling, all that. I will say the scene of Daniel Jackson talking to Kinsey as the Goa'uld, and he's saying, usually you have to brag about all the things, so this must be killing you to like be quiet and not telling me how I'm wrong, and that was actually pretty
good. Yeah. We'll get into more. One thing that I just remembered from the commentary. Another way that they kind of like save money is as they're shooting. once they have a certain shot set up, like in the briefing room, and they have the people sitting around the desk and they have the camera on, Michael Shanks or something, they'll record his dialogue for that briefing scene. And then if there are any other briefing scenes in the episode, they'll just record his dialogue for those as well. So they don't have to reset the cameras and stuff. And, usually they'll have the guy in with the board and say, Marker, this is the next scene. Apparently Peter DeLuise, when he films those types of scenes, like doesn't yell cut or anything. He's like, okay, keep rolling. Now do the next scene of your dialogue. And so it's a little like unnerving for the actors. And then the editors have to like scrub through everything to find exactly where.
Gosh.
Yeah. So you could record like a whole episodes of like briefing room scenes with the camera on Daniel Jackson all in one continuous take, which is just fascinating to me. It's, I always assumed that SG1, given its level of professionalism and stuff, was filmed like a movie where, they had weeks to film every episode and could, do it in sequence or, have multiple, takes and stuff. And it's just what they were able to do with the resources they had at this point was pretty amazing, I think.
I will say that since we've been doing this show podcast and hearing that they're filming like multiple episodes at one time and like the A team, the B team, whatever, all this stuff. And I hate to say it does like hurt the magic of Stargate a little bit for me. Like, I don't want to hear about them not being able to do it exactly the way they're supposed to do it. Like, everything's perfect and wonderful.
Yeah. I mean, it says a lot. And they did acknowledge on the commentary, you can only do this if your crew and your, writers and directors are completely clued in and professional and know what they're doing. Because you can just imagine in any other less competent production, things just completely falling apart, but they just had it down to the point where like, okay, we know we have these actors for this much time. Well, we have to film this many pages of the script. And in order to do that, we're just going to,
Yeah. And it helps that they've been together as a crew for so long at this point. And I'm assuming they just really, really good people working for them.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate with this, what we've been seeing this season and even some of the prior season of the characters, the team separating and doing different things and not even being in the same episodes. And I know we joke about season 9 and 10, but for the most part, the team is all together again. It's a different team. It's not the original team, but everyone's together again for the most part, episode to episode. So it kind of, so I appreciate season 9 and 10 and I do like them, but not as strong as the earlier SG1, but you get everyone together most of the time and, playing off each other, and it's not just everybody separating, but we do this is kind of the last one that's not so great in this season, I feel like, and then the rest are pretty strong. So this one walks so that Mobius could run, I guess.
They were saving their money.
Yeah. And it does pay off later. And we do get some good moments in this one too. I liked, not Teal'c because he doesn't really have a lot to do, but
stands there, shows off his muscles.
Yeah.
He gets a couple good looks in and stuff, and
he drove.
I guess so. Was he driving the van?
He was driving. Yeah, he was.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, we get the new van this time. The scenes inside the van were actually filmed inside the van, and that's because the old surveillance van they of course blew up during Chimera, one with Carter and Pete, and that was because they just like their old van was really old and was having problems, and they thought they could just blow it up and get a new one. Yeah, which they did. So, it is, very cool. A lot of the Russians that we see in this have been in previous episodes as different characters. The guards, have been, alternatively like Russian submarine commanders and going back to even season 2. One thing I thought was cool, Gary, the actors in this, we do see some familiar faces. Gary Chalk, as I mentioned, as Colonel Chekhov. His attaché in this is actually the guy that they get to translate their English dialogue into Russian when they need the characters to speak Russian. They hire a certain guy to be their translator. Oh, okay. And I forget the gentleman's name, but he's actually playing Chekhov's aide in numerous scenes in the SG1.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And then we get to see Mike Dopud in this, who plays, I guess he turns out to be a Goa'uld, but it really doesn't factor into the plot, Colonel Chernoshev. But he'll, of course, be a recurring character, not the character, but the actor on Stargate universe. So
yeah, he was super familiar when he came on screen. I was like, I know him.
Yeah, there's I wouldn't really recommend it for anyone with kids or anything, but there was a quote unquote Christmas movie a couple of years ago called Violent Night, where Santa has to take out a bunch of terrorists, and Mike Dopud plays the leader of the terrorists in that movie. So it was good to see him, some 20 years later.
Yeah, I was almost wishing they had made him like the guy that was going to kill the Russian president, or that was infiltrating the high command or whatever, because then you have a face to the name, and you have at least a little bit of character interaction versus just this random general we don't know. we only know from Chekhov.
And we keep thinking we're going to meet him, and we don't.
Yeah, you just see his little photos, and he looks like I don't know, but and so the big news is Kinsey gets Goa'ulded. He goes to meet the Trust, and they say, "Oh, you thought you were here for this, but we want you here for this." And they open up a briefcase, and he's like, "What is that? No."
Yeah.
And then you're like, "Oh, it's probably a Goa'uld."
Yeah.
And then the next time we see him, he's a Goa'uld. And then he gets beamed up to Prometheus, and at least he didn't get flushed out an airlock this time.
That's true.
As far as we know, but he did manage to overpower 2 guards and take their pistol, and then proceed to fire probably 3 magazines worth of ammunition. So I don't know. Even my 11-year-old was watching this. He's like, where does he keep getting the bullets?
Yeah. Yeah. I will say I found Kinsey scarier as Kinsey than as a Goa'uld. He didn't have enough personality to me as a Goa'uld.
Yeah.
I don't know. Because Kinsey is so over the top as Kinsey that once he was a Goa'uld, it was kind of like, meh, I don't know. Little tamer.
Yeah, it's just like old Goa'uld. Yeah. It's like Grandpa Goa'uld. Yeah.
You think back to some of those scenes between him and Jack, years ago, seasons ago, I should say. And those were great. And he was so good and evil. You hated him. And this was, once he's Goa'ulded, you're like, meh.
Yeah. But before that, we do get some good scenes with him and Jack, I guess. So that we do finally.
Yeah. I was just
calling me a poker partner.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they never. Yeah, it's unfortunate they never bring him up again, because having a Goa'uld running around on Earth, and everyone thinks he's just a politician, but the people in the know that could have been interesting. I mean, they could have done something with that, and he could have tried to run for election or something as a Goa'uld, but there's some. I mean, it might have been a comedy episode, but I mean, could have been done.
No, that would have been actually cool, like his redemption arc. Like, I was bad as vice president before, but now I'm going to be your president somehow through machinations that nobody understands. The current president won't stand for re-election, and I, the former vice president, will be installed as. But no, it would have been pretty far-fetched, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I think I did read they were planning on Kinsey coming back, like Ronnie Cox. They had plans to bring him back in future season, and it just didn't happen. That's why it was left open-ended. Oh. So maybe they had that plan.
And he is name dropped again in Mobius, but when we get there, we'll know. But yeah, but you don't see him in Mobius. You just hear his name.
Yeah, I was pretty disappointed that this was his last episode too, because he does steal the Goa'uld, hand device from the other Goa'uld that he shoots, and so it's pretty clear that he's out there somewhere, but I don't know.
Yeah,
they just need to launch the symbiote poison over across the the world and blame it on a gas leak or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. It was fun though, getting to see last week when It's Good to Be King, and we got to see Mayborn again, and then now we get Kinsey again. And we've talked about this before, that I think season 7 and 8 has been a lot of like, hey, remember that idea we had that we never got to do, or like, why not? Let's see what we can do with it. And so it was fun. I liked seeing Kinsey. I like that they brought him back up. I don't know, all the Russian, American, DEF CON, whatever, talkie kind of just.
I think the DEF CON lights were actually a highlight for me. Like seeing them go.
It's like war games.
Yeah, a kid who grew up watching war games. You're like, ooh, make the light. And the first time when they go from like DEF CON 5 to 4 or 4 to 3 or something, they don't show the lights. And like me and my son, we were like outraged. We're like, show the lights, you cowards. And finally later on they do. And I was like, yeah, they were holding back the lights until they could just, that's what we're here to see. The DEF CON lights go from 3 to 2 and 2 to 1.
Well, it's funny they waited this long to have an episode where like the highest levels of government are compromised, really, because like with Goa'uld, they can impersonate anybody, or they can take over anybody. We've had episodes of technology taking over people. And they could have done this in a prior season in like a more big budget way, and that could have been interesting. And but yeah, and I was kind of thinking, I was like, where's the IOA on all this? Shouldn't they be doing something to?
Oh yeah.
Them. They feel like they should have a process in place to like you get a weekly Goa'uld test or something to if you're in a certain level of government, you get a blood sample or something. But then of course
especially after Foothold. I mean, you kind of referenced that one, where they had the thing, the aliens and the plane, and we had Mayborn in that one too, and Davis. And so that exists, that technology to impersonate someone. And then you've got Goa'ulds who can take over a person's body. And then, and it's kind of like, you're right. That would have been a cool one to do it while Kinsey was still vice president, but to have him Goa'ulded and like, him and William Devane, like getting into a big thing. And that would have been cool.
I did miss not having William Devane in this episode.
Yeah. That would have been, that probably was over budget.
Kinsey, I always knew you were a snake. Or something like, you could have said that.
Here,
yeah. But this is ridiculous. Or something, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, he called him Bob, didn't he?
Yeah, Bob.
Shut the hell up.
Yeah. I always knew your brain was part snake. But or something. I don't know. I can't write the show for him at this point, but if they ever,
would have been fun is to see what they kind of wanted to do, but they had to cross out.
Yeah. But no, this wasn't. When I saw it was an Earthbound, Trust episode, I was, but then they do move around quite a bit. We're in Colorado, we're in Russia, we're in space. So they do a good job, kind of changing it up. We get to see Colonel Pendergast and I don't know, who's the other?
Lieutenant Womack.
Lieutenant Womack. There you go. Yeah.
And Daniel Jackson had time to hit on a new person.
Yeah.
So always.
Yeah. Yeah, Francoise Robertson playing Captain Daria Voronkova, who apparently had just had a child, and so was had the child on set and would run down and take care of the child after her scenes and stuff. Yeah, and
she did have a funny line when they first meet, and they're asking each other, how's your Russian, how's your English, and Daniel replies in Russian, and she's like, okay, English then, implying his Russian's not great.
I love that because Daniel's always so proud of his. I speak like 55 languages.
Exactly. Yeah, and there were a lot of like little good grace notes like that in the episode too, and so that's the strength of the writing there. Yeah, and so I can only imagine being handed a story idea, and it's like write a really cheap episode where they go to Russia and into space, and there's like 5 Goa'uld in it, and there's the threat of World War III and nuclear war and stuff. So yeah, I think with what they had, they did a really good job.
When you put it that way, yeah,
because
the characters are well written. I mean, there's lots. They're very much in character, very true to the show, all of that. So now I'm feeling bad for not liking it.
Well, I mean, there's appreciation and then there's liking too.
Like, I don't need to rewatch this one again.
Yeah. I always like seeing Gary Chalk, though. He's, old school Vancouver actor, was with Richard Dean Anderson in at least a couple episodes of MacGyver, too. So, can do a credible, as far as I'm concerned, Russian accent. So I like when he comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because I recently rewatched Beast Wars on Transformers Beast Wars, and he voices the Optimus Prime in that. And as a kid, I watched that, and I was watching Stargate, but I never knew it was the same. But now I'm like, wait a second, it's Colonel Chekhov.
It's like worlds colliding.
Yeah. Once you open up like voice acting, there's so many. Oh yeah, like actors, and you go through their IMDb page, and you're like, really? He did like 68 episodes of a show called what? And you're like, I haven't heard. Oh, it's an animated show from like 2003 or something. Yeah. Only shown in Canada and Botswana or something. But any other thoughts on this? Not too many other languages. French, we get alerte maximum, which is full alert. And then in German, we get confrontation, which is confrontation. So there you go.
Love to hear from a listener of ours who is German, because we've had a few people leave us comments who are French, and I would love to hear from a German listener. Like, are they upset with us? Like how we like the French, the German titles? I mean, I love it. I have fun with it, but I just want their take on it. Like, how is Stargate? How was it received in Germany? Because it sounds like it's pretty darn popular in Europe, even still.
Yeah.
So I really want to know, because I keep seeing all these Comic-Cons and things in Europe, and
maybe I'll look at the kind of the fans. I think there are a couple German fans of Stargate who are pretty prominent on X. I'll ask them to listen to our podcast and say, hey, we poke gentle fun at your mother tongue. Can you let us know how offended you are?
Yeah, I was trying to remember. I don't know that even at Atlantis that there's really we don't really see German characters, like anybody wearing like the German patch or whatever. So whereas we see a lot of various other nationalities in Atlantis, and
I don't think my German is any worse than Michael Shanks's when he's trying to his German when he's trying to talk to Catherine in 1969.
Right.
Yeah,
that was not a great accent. Yeah. I mean, not that I can speak German or have an accent at all, but
but feel free to leave us comments. We do have some comments on our recent episode. I believe it was 171, Prometheus Unbound. Mark Gillies, 1970, writes, Prometheus Unbound is a poem by P.B. Shelley, which I think I said Shelley, but I may have meant Mary Shelley. So P.B. Shelley is the correct poem there. It is also the name of the college bowl team I captained that won the student competition and almost beat the professors. Those professors are wily, and it is hard to beat them at college bowl. USMC 93355 writes on that same episode, I like Vala in this episode, but it is a bit rough to watch at points. And I'm also surprised that Lisa didn't mention that the actress that played Novak played the librarian / paranormal investigator on Hallmark's Aurora Teagarden Mysteries, which also has Lexa Doig as a main character. So,
and Captain Daria Bonakova is also an Aurora Teagarden alumni.
Oh, really?
From this episode, yes.
That might be a Hallmark. Is it a show or a movies or?
They're movies, but there's a whole bunch of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of like Columbo.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll have to check those out. The cast seems pretty solid there. And then last but not least, Hammond OT writes, Victor is right. He writes a little bit more than that. Yeah. Yeah.
Just leave it at that.
Yeah. Victor is right. A little bit of Vala goes a long way.
Yeah.
There is one episode where they're in court or something and she's prowling around, climbing all over the desk, etc. I don't remember that, but the comment concludes that character was just too much. So I'll look forward to the courtroom scene where she's climbing on a desk or a piano or something. I don't know.
I do remember that.
Yeah. I think it was when she was trying to become like a citizen or something. Like she was having a hearing or something like that. Or maybe fully joining the military or something like that.
She was a full Vala. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So we have that to look forward to. But before that happens, we'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create Secrets of Stargate. Seth N., Clint V., Melanie Q., Allison H., and Jeremiah N. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Stargate and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. And be sure to follow the show on Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or find our video versions at youtube.com/StarQuestMedia or on Spotify. And to find previous episodes of Secrets of Stargate and to send feedback, please visit sqpn.com/Stargate. You can email us at stargate@sqpn or follow StarQuest on social media at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia or on X at SQPN. And we will be back next time with the next episode of Stargate Atlantis, Sanctuary. Until then, Lisa Jones, thank you for joining us and sharing the secrets of Stargate.
Thanks, Victor.
And thank you, Jeff Haecker.
Thanks, Victor.
And once again, I'm Victor Lambs. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Stargate on StarQuest. And remember, you should return to your homes and say farewell to your loved ones. Your gods have deemed you to be unworthy. The hour of reckoning is at hand.
Anyway, I'm sorry, but that just happens to be how I feel about it. What do you think?